Horizon Chance, almost Rex, and this is Even Fancier Paintings. Yeah, we saw the main channel video apparently, and this is like incognito mode video. What's the difference between two? I don't get it. Why didn't he just post the first one in incognito version? And then again, I thought incognito is mostly like in the field type of video where he just invites people and just talk about it. So if that's the case, why did he put this in incognito mode? I don't know. I don't know the theme. I guess that's the whole point. I guess people are forgetting how internet is and how his like humor is, right? I guess that's the whole point of these things. So yeah. All right. So this is about paintings. Thing that I definitely need to know because it's like one of the most important shit there is paintings. Yeah. I don't know much about paintings. If you can't catch that already, I don't know much about paintings. I guess when we were in school, we used to do some oil painting and shit. I don't know. But yeah, he's focusing on more like artwork type of things, right? First it was like theater, all the theater shit. Now it's about like paintings. I'm guessing he's gonna talk about all the great painters and things, Van Gogh and shit, right? So it's gonna be fun. That's what it. Remember, if you like my Dixon, don't forget to subscribe. So that way you can support this channel by helping the algorithm and things. Check out the Dixon. There's a link in the description, and let's watch it.
NordVPN isn't like the other girls. Hello, incognito mode videos now. Alright, so the schedule for this mini-series goes like this. We did the main channel on theater, then an incognito mode on painting, which is this. Then there's a main channel on wine, and then an incognito mode on a bunch of stories around wine. And there's a main channel on things that people wear. There's a main channel on luxury goods, and then we round the whole thing off with 2 more incognito modes. And then...
Okay, why is there like 3 videos on wine? Okay, I think there's like a theme here. Theater basically imply any kind of like artwork. It has to be, well, paint is more specific part of it or something. Then there's a main channel video on wine, right? Like specifically on wine and its effect. Then it's like subgenre of that is like anything drinking, whatever they left out or something, right? I thought they would make a theater part 2. Like he stopped with a modern version of it or something, right? If I remember correctly, I thought they would make 2, but apparently not. Yeah, okay. So then wear like what you wear, including luxury. But then it's like another main is. Oh, that's another main on luxury. I don't know the theme anymore. Yeah, I guess this like what you wear and then more specific on luxury. Then okay, all the people are bitching about he don't make a main channel video. He's like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna make 4 of them.
I go back into cryostasis. This first section is on the basics of painting, and we were a little bit worried to show it because we kind of felt like this will split the audience. Not because it's political or anything, but because it's so basic. So someone who already knows something about art would be like, yeah, of course, why are you telling me this? But for someone like me, who knows practically 0 about art, I found it really interesting, and I thought, why the heck haven't I been told this before, right? So, first section.
Alright, quiet on the set.
Basics of painting.
Action!
The arts. The arts. Do not put an F in front of that. Worst mistake I ever made in my life. Alright, first, some things that'll make you go,
What the fuck?
yeah, and? Or,
Fail arts, the farts.
Right. So look at this colorful goo. Paint. Delicious in both jam and chip form. But its raw components are just 2 essential things. An undissolving pigment and a medium. Now, pigments are basically just colorful dust, and the medium is the liquidy thing that the dust hangs out in. Now, the liquid determines what type of paint you have. Pigment plus water equals watercolors. Pigment plus glue equals acrylics. Pigment plus oil equals oil paints. So simple. And pigment plus moving on. Now, the pigment does not dissolve into the medium. Instead, it's just kind of suspended in it. When the pigment does dissolve into a medium, that's a dye. So that's the basic difference. Now, you have to transfer the paint onto the canvas. To do that, we need to talk tools. Well, first, you can just use your fingers. It was good.
Yeah, it kind of like anybody who's like scientifically literate would see that like, yeah, kind of makes sense, right? I mean, dyes are, it like, it just like mixes just perfect. That's why you need those dyes in the first place. But other colors is like when you put it on like a canvas or something, right? You don't want something to just basically, dissolve with each other, right? So because when it like dries up, the pigment stays there, right? Than anything else, right? The dye would be different. So I guess this is better in that way. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. But this whole process that goes really back, which is surprising me. I hope he talks about like history of it, like how back it goes. Right, because you think like, okay, all this like feels like bit of chemically based, right? Like chemical science. You would think like this must be like a newer thing, but no, this goes way far back. Dye and everything like that. Like, okay, people figured it out back then as well.
Good enough for the cavemen, and it's good enough for your mom. So it's good enough for us. Then we tried brushes. Now here is the anatomy of a brush. You've got the handle, the bristles, the ferrule, and the crimp. Now the bristles are the most important bit. First we were just using mangled up reeds called fronds, but they got really good once we started using animal hair. Have a look at some of the animals we used. Boar, taken from the neck or the back of the pig. That is the kind of brush that Van Gogh used, and it's still the gold standard for today. A goat brush. It's good, but it's not the goat. Lacks some spring. So it's mostly used for calligraphy. Badger. Now that's actually mostly used for shaving, not painting at all. Horse, raccoon, and wolf, also not great quality. But what's the worst quality of all? The gutter oil of the brush world. Well, the worst quality is camel hair brushes. And they're mostly sold as arts and crafts brushes for kids. But the weird thing is, camel hair is so low quality that it's not even used in brushes at all. Huh? Yes, so-called camel hair brushes are actually made from cats and rabbits and squirrels. But that makes people kind of sad. So they changed...
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, this is so good, right? Camel hair. Is it made out of cat? No, it's made out of cat. What happened to that cat? Why are you asking me that? Pretty sure cat is fine, but somebody saved their fucking cat for this one. Okay. Come on, man. What, they have like a bunch of cats that they constantly shave just to get their hair? Like, nobody likes to hear this, right? Like, cat for fuck's sake. I mean, come on. I'm pretty sure where I am, like, there's actual brand name called Camel, right? There are like pencils and things, including like brushes and color that comes from this company called Camel. And you always assume like it must be like made from camel, this brushes, because I was kind of like known. But this shit is surprising. Like, that's not even made out of camel. Come on.
The name to a much less cute animal, and also one that's kind of exotic, so you wouldn't question it. Now, what's the best brush of all? What is the S tier of brushes? Those are made from sable.
Oh my god, this, of course. 10 out of 10.
Now, sable is a type of weasel. These are hunted for their fur for clothing.
Yes, there you go.
It's him.
But when they catch them to make clothes, they actually only want the body for the clothes, and so they discard the tail altogether. But those tails have the best hair for paintbrushes, and so they are snatched up by the brush makers. Now the hair is special because it has an interlocking scales that vastly increases the surface area, but it also holds strong in the long term. Firm and bouncy, but also soft.
It's smooth, it bounces, it moves.
There you go.
Only with new Tresemme Keratin Smooth.
And they sell for upwards of $300 a brush.
That's the shampoo I use apparently. So that was something.
Alright, here's a top 10 list, sort of maybe Watch Mojo style, of the most famous paintings, and just a few interesting things about them that...
No, synthetic ones, like nobody used some kind of like synthetic plastic or something like that. You would think like there would be something like that. I don't know. It is all made out of some kind of animal fur. Kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Like, there's nothing synthetic. Like, we can't do that.
You may not know. Pop quiz, sports shoe wearer. Look at this painting. What does it make you feel? Too late. Or if you answered in time.
Somebody had an aneurysm.
Happy, sad. I bet those are the only two emotions you even know. The correct answer is shame, because you are embarrassing yourself. You know nothing about the arts. So it is time to look at the best paintings to ever exist. And let's begin with the most...
I hate... Did you see that? Did you see that? What the... Starry Night was vandalized there with a Batman. What the fuck?
It's time to look at the best
No, it's not based Darth Vader. Like, that's even worse. Starry Night, Darth Vader, and what is the Death Star? Fuck you.
paintings to ever exist. And let's
that's
begin
my
with
favorite
the
painting
most
there.
obscure of them all. Whoever this is. The Mona Lisa. Now,
Oh,
I
yes.
thought it went first name Mona, last name Lisa. Check it out. But turns out Mona is an honorific, meaning madam, so it's Madam Lisa. Now, relatively recently, historians have figured out who she actually is, and they found out that she's married to a Florentine merchant, Francesco del Giocondo. So that makes her Lisa del Gioconda, and that explains the alternative title of the work, La Gioconda. Now, the reason she has her arms crossed and is a little bit chubby is because she's pregnant. In fact, you can kind of see that she's wearing a veil, and that particular type of veil was worn by pregnant women at the time. Her husband commissioned the painting when Da Vinci was already well known, so it would have been very expensive, and that makes it very funny for a couple of reasons. One, it was never handed over to the family. Instead, Leo left it in his will to his apprentice. And two, because for a couple of hundred years, the prevailing theory was that she was not an aristocratic wife, but instead, a prostitute. Her hair being down.
Wasn't the theory that that's, Da Vinci's mother or something? Wasn't that the thing? I'm pretty sure I remember that, right? Like she's the mother of, I don't know.
And her almost absent eyebrows were common traits of working girls at the time. Anyway, why is this painting so famous? Well, Da Vinci was already pretty famous, and the painting got stolen. This became a very big news story, and her face suddenly started getting plastered on a whole bunch of newspapers and wanted posters, making her very recognizable. From there, she became the most famous painting, which is why she always looks so smug. Starry Night, Vincent van...
Oh yeah, that's my favorite painting right there. If anybody knows my old background, it was always there. I'm a very, space guy, as people already know, very scientific guy. So this is just perfect art, science, and space all together. Look at all those stars, right? Obviously, like, stars don't look like that. Some of them are probably planets. They also don't look like that, but it's more like what he felt when he drew this. But this is just fucking awesome. Look at that. This might be something like a church tower or something, right? That was like a big thing back then, the houses. And look at the star.
Go.
Yeah, I sure hope it does.
Painted while he was in the St. Paul de Musol Asylum. That's here. And this was the view from his bedroom window. Here is the real view a few decades later. He chose not to paint the metal bars. Now, you can see that there are 11 stars in the sky here. Supposedly, that's reference to Joseph from the Bible. Joseph, he had a hard life. The minivan, he had a hard life too. And he hoped that he would be remembered at least once he was gone, like Joseph. And you know what? It worked out for him because everybody remembers Van Gogh and nobody remembers the guys who bullied him and called him a ginger. Also, there's kind of a theory that he was killed by some kid. Go check out Wendigoon's channel for more information on that one. The birth of Venus.
There was a study recently about how ginger people feel pain differently. Like, that doesn't help. Why would you do a study like that? That doesn't help at all. People already feel different. Okay, now you're going to do this?
All right, let me tell you what's happening in this one. So, there's this lady, Venus. She is the goddess of beauty, and she is coming up out of the ocean in a big clam, right? Now, the clam is not a metaphor for her vagina. It's that she is the perfect pearl. Get it? Now, these two here are a divine wind. They are blowing her like a hot spoonful of soup towards the shore. And she is carried all the way over to the beach. And this beach, by the way, is a real place called Paphos. It's in Cyprus. Here is what it looks like in real life. Now, when she arrives on the beach, a nymph shows up, which is this lady here, and she has a cloak, and she throws the cloak over Venus, and she says, "You know what? You're very special. One day they're gonna name a 4-blade razor after you."
And a planet.
Arrangement in black and grey, number 1. also known as Whistler's mother, most famous for its appearance in the Mr. Bean movie. Now, when Whistler's mother originally agreed to be painted, she agreed to be painted standing up, but she had to pose for so long that eventually she got quite tired and had to sit down. Here you go. And that became the famous pose. The Garden of Earthly Delights. Alright, this one is probably my favorite because it looks like a Where's Waldo, and then the whole thing just goes completely off the rails. So,
Yes,
Mr. Hieronymus, that's a name that's going to make a comeback, is doing all of
Hieronymus.
this cool surreal stuff about 500 years ago. So let's start on the left. Here is Adam and Eve, and the pre-incarnation of Jesus. And they are all hanging out in the Garden of Eden. Now what's going on in the middle bit? That's harder to explain. The best theory is either that this is Eden if people were allowed back into the garden, or if they had never left in the first place, or if man had not committed original sin.
What the is that some kind of a tent with vines coming out? There are people inside, definitely. What the fuck is this? Some kind of a ball with some kind of like grass on top of it? The people inside as well. The food is coming out of it. What is happening in this one?
Sin. But look at the size of that strawberry. Oh, here he is. Then on the right-hand
That's the
panel
Waldo.
is hell. Or at least a very bad time. This is where Oddlaw would end up. That son of a bitch. Right. Now, here's the interesting bit. It's not painted on a typical canvas. It's actually a sort of cabinet thing with 3 panels called a triptych. And the neat thing is, if you close the doors, more painting. That is the earth, and that is the firmament. A perfect balance between flat earth and globe theory. A Sunday afternoon on the island of
You just said globe
Lagrange.
theory.
This thing is pretty big, and here's the real-life place it was painted after. Although they've beautified it even more with the office building at the back. What you may not know is that it is actually a sequel. First, George Seurat painted the left bank, and that's where all the working class sit. You see these guys that, have a bit less money and stuff. Gross! And then this is the one that you all know, and that is on the right-hand bank. And all these people are a very bougie sort.
People are obsessed with cake a lot, but look at this shit. Look at it, right? Look at that. What about back then, man?
That is Scrappy-Doo. And that's a monkey. The Last Supper.
Really? A monkey
So the
just
scene is
walking
this.
around.
All the disciples are gathered around, and this is the exact moment that Jesus declares, "Hey, by the way, I know one of you betrayed me." And this is everyone's shocked reaction to the news. Except there's one guy who's just pretending to be shocked. And here is who everyone is.
Me? No.
I thought this was Mary, by the way. Turns out that's John. Very progressive. And that's all of
Okay.
the paintings, and no one has attempted one since.
What?
And I wake up. Quickly, flip the Nord
There you go,
logo.
Nordman.
Mariana Stretch. Flip it the other way. 3 pyramids.
He's solving the mysteries.
There's not much time. I've got to log into NordVPN so the corporations can't track me. Marketing companies gang stalking me, listening to me through the walls. We found the death note.
Okay, do Nordmen have monopoly with internet student? Because I'm pretty sure I haven't seen a single different ad like for years. Every internet student video always has Nordman ad. Or does it deliberately choose that so you can do this part?
Wake up again. I don't have much time. The feds are at my door.
Open up.
I refuse to take my Nord milk pills. I wake up again. The demon in the corner of my room wants to access my NordVPN. I let him, because I can use it on up to 6 different devices.
Thanks, Nordman.
I know the corporations are building profiles on me. I go to Facebook, I go to Wikipedia, then suddenly I'm getting ads for feet on my Facebook. Big feet, big foot, big farmer.
Is that a real site?
On Tuesday, I saw a red car. Coincidence? Huge deal on a 2-year plan plus 4 bonus months. 4 sides to a triangle. Coincidence? There's a guy reacting to my life in the corner right now. 30-day money-back guarantee. What's the goddamn catch? Time's going faster than usual, and only a limited time to get a great deal on a 2-year plan. I wake up again. It's the perfect Christmas present.
Who are you?
Wait a minute. My family died in a suspicious house fire. Skinwalker in my house. Changed location to Finland. Different regions have different prices on plane tickets and hotels. That ain't even a conspiracy. I take more microplastics so I can see through the ether.
We're coming in, Nordman.
Pizza time.
But they're too late. I click Hyperborea and I am untouchable. If you understood anything that happened in this ad, go to nordvpn.com/incognito to get a huge deal on a 2-year plan plus 4 bonus months. Ad over. Alright, so this one is about how to spot a fake painting. I quite like this section, but it kind of got bogged down by all of its technical information and it went quite long. So, here it is, for the discerning audience. How to spot a fake painting. Glug, glug, glug. Oh my god. Is that a real Michelangelo? We're here now. Quick hypothetical lower tax brackets. If paintings like this one or this one go for literally gajillions of dollars, that's USD, then what's to stop someone from doing this? Then this, and then this, then this, and then saying it's real when it ain't. You know, faking a painting. Turns out,
Too many movies
not
about
much
that.
at all. In fact, it can be very difficult to tell these fake-ass paintings from the ones that keep it real. There's a whole-ass art to detecting these fakes, and it's become an arms race.
The problem with that is like how accurate are those arts, right? What if those arts that they think that they're so good and might overanalyze and actually say that real one is fake? What you do at that point? Okay, I've seen many movies like, oh, this paint that they used to use this kind of a thing that wasn't available back then, this and that. But if somebody's a good forger, they would know all that shit. They would acquire things that were only available back then and just like basically forge it. Like, I don't know. At that point, what you gonna do? And with the laser precision, technologies we have today, they might make something so specifically just perfect that nobody can detect it.
Where the authenticators find new ways of detecting, and the fakers find new ways to get around their methods.
Seriously.
Technology's advanced. Do you think that makes it harder to make good forgeries?
Nah, you can beat the forensics.
So, authentication. There are 3 main categories: provenance, connoisseurship, forensics. Let's start in alphabetical order. Provenance. Now, provenance follows the history of the painting, tracking down the previous sellers and the buyers, all the galleries that exhibited it, the hand-to-hand that it was passed through, all the way back to the original painter. However, the older the work, the harder it is, generally, to track the provenance. Take, for example, the most expensive painting ever sold, the Salvator Mundi, the final Da Vinci. Sold in 2017 for $400 million, and it can only be traced back to 1958. Back then, it was sold for £45. But in the other 500 years of its...
See, the problem with that is like only tragedy here is that history, right? We like to go to historical areas and feel the history. The people who want to visit museums and see these real ass paintings, that's where the tragedy is if something's not real. Apart from that, all the rich idiots, somebody bought a fucking banana that was sellotaped or taped on top of a canvas, and there you go, somebody paid for that. So these rich idiots, they don't care. I don't give a shit if they're fake paintings at that point. Only tragedy is museums and things where people actually go and visit, like Mona Lisa and things like that. Is that real or not? Right? And even then, it's just touch and go, I don't know. It's if it's indistinguishable from the real one and people don't know, at that point, what harm done? Who gives a shit? Because there's no other alternative at that point. What you gonna do, right? So I don't know. There's a high chance lots of this are gonna be fake and people will never know it.
History. No one knew where this thing was. Even today, people still dispute whether it's genuine.
I think it's a real flim-flam.
And this is a made-up piece of junk.
I think it's fake art news.
Real in drag.
And it turns up in America? In New Orleans? Oh, I see. I think we've wished
this Da Vinci into existence.
Here's the lost
There you go.
Leonardo that somebody once mentioned in a book.
Provenance has gotten a lot easier over time. You used to have to track down books and read catalogs and stuff, but now
I think that dude realizes somebody bought it for $400 million and he just doesn't care. He's just gonna start ripping into it. Look at that, he paid $400 million for it. I'm just gonna say that it's fake, regardless of what.
it's all
That's just-
online. Control plus F, there it is. So you see, kid, there's nothing online. Nothing. Tell me who you bought this from, you son of a bitch. Where did you get this? Tell me the name of the auction house that sold you it. Connoisseurship. Look at the work. Do you believe what you are seeing? How does it look? How does it taste? Are these ballpoint pen strokes those of a master artist? Luckily, there are people like Martin Kemp, who spend their whole careers focusing on single artists.
I've been dealing with Leonardo for, I suppose, about 50 years.
They can pick out the fakes. So, for example, when he was looking at La Bella Principessa, he went, yup, he uses the Trois Crayons. He's a left-handed artist. The proportions of the head and the face are all correct. You know what? I'm going to give this a big rubber stamp right there in the middle of the painting. Confirmed. So, for the fakers, they have to have a keen understanding of who they are copying. One of the best fakers, Almir de Hore, for example, mastered the brushstrokes of artists such as Matisse, Modigliani, and Renoir so well that hundreds of museums are currently in possession of his works, without even knowing it. Yes, well, Michelangelo is famous for his Cangiante paint.
Wait a bit, so he just point blank says that and people are not pissed off? By the way, there are thousands of paintings this museum have that is made by me, and people are like, what the fuck?
Techniques, and I can't see any of that here. You're 0 for 2, kid. You're going down. Forensics. This thing's going straight to the lab. You're about to have a paint brush up with the law. Masterpiece. More like you're a real masterpiece of shit, kid.
The best shit ever.
Fuck you. Alright, now the people that solve murders have really changed the game when it comes to art forgeries. By implementing...
Oh god, I just want one of the forgers to be just like that. Speak, say nothing, just observe things while people are talking. People ask him and say nothing, and then just put on glasses. This is fake, and just walk away. Music plays in the background.
Radiocarbon dating. Carbon dating? Yeah, but it's not serious. Listen, you're made out of carbon. I'm made out of carbon. Paintings are made out of carbon. And when a thing is made out of carbon, there are these unusual isotopes of carbon-14, right? They're floating all throughout the air and the atmosphere. Now, all living things contain a trace of them. They are taken in when something eats, breathes, anything else. And that happens continuously throughout the life cycle. However, when the organism dies, it stops taking in new carbon, right? Which means it stops taking in new carbon-14. Same thing happens to a painting. You've stopped putting paint on the thing, no more carbon. Carbon-14 is an unstable isotope, and it decays at a very steady rate. Poof! It turns into nitrogen-14 and a beta particle.
Beta!
And because these carbon-14 atoms decay at a very steady rate, in principle, you can look at the proportional number of carbon-14 atoms and determine how old something is. More carbon-14, newer painting. Less carbon-14, older painting. In 1985, using this technique, they caught a guy, Robert Trotter, who forged a Sarah Hon painting. Ah, far too many carbon-14 atoms. Lock 'em up, boys. But there are even simple...
Yeah, see, but problem with that is I'm pretty sure there might be some ways to, force decay the carbon, right? Some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a technique there must be. I need to research this a bit more, which I'm going to do. That's why I love watching this and reacting to videos like this. More information. So I'm pretty sure there must be like some kind of way you can radiate it, painting. So that might, cause it to decay faster or something. Because people find ways, man. That's the thing.
Simpler methods of testing the age of a pigment. 3 Jackson Pollock paintings were found to be fake when it was determined that the pigments on the canvas weren't sold until the 1960s.
There you go.
But Pollock was dead by 1956. Nowadays, there are huge pigment libraries that can be easily cross-referenced. So that shows the year a pigment was first introduced and what year it stopped being used. For example, anything that has titanium white has to have been produced in the last 80 years. I'm going to be honest with you, kid. Michelangelo never used the yellow Crayola. X-rays. Now, you can blast this thing with some radiation and look behind the painting to see what's underneath. For example, did the artist do a sketch first? Maybe this is painted over something else. If you look behind the Mona Lisa, you can actually see that she had a much larger head once, although maybe it just shrunk with age. And you can see that veil much more easily. Also, if you X-ray even further, you can see her fully formed skeleton. But the art forgers of today are a wily bunch. Forgers can source old canvases from the correct period. They can use error-matching pigments. Even the carbon dating can be a bit unreliable. Heck, even the X-rays can be bullshitted, as forgers take into account that their work will be X-rayed, as they do a sort of fake painting or sketch first.
The problem with engineering is that there is reverse engineering, right? So if you find a way, they'll realize you found a way, and whatever way you found, they can basically engineer it that way, right? Like you're going to do X-ray to find what below it, so they're going to deliberately make sure there's something below it, right? Like look, let's X-ray Mona Lisa. What is underneath it? They know what is underneath it. They're going to forge that first. So there's always going to be a way. Like this, same thing is like how YouTube is doing right now, right? YouTube is what using that ad blocks, like blocking the ad blockers. Now this has become this thing, like ad blockers are becoming like more stronger, right? It's just like how you're going to find, like the more you're going to find ways, the people are going to find even different ways. You are human, others are human. If you can find something, they can find it as well and make it reverse engineer it.
And then paint the next version on top. Alright kid, I'll give you $20,000 for this. Or a shiny new bottle of Ritalin. Works every time.
Give me.
This section is about Shakespeare. Wow, that would make so much sense for it to be in the theatre video on the main channel.
Yeah.
This dude showed up at...
What the fuck? That's why he stopped it. I was thinking like he didn't do Shakespeare. He's gonna make a second video, but no, it's in this one. He should put it in comma. Even Fancier paintings, comma, continuation of the first one.
Changed the game. Shakespeare. Here's the thing though. We basically know nothing about him. First, we don't know what he looked like. There are two best guesses. One is from this engraving on a first folio. But that wasn't put together until 7 years after he was already dead. One of his peers, Ben Jonson, knew him though and said, yeah, it's pretty close. So maybe. The second is a bust that was made for his grave. There are a bunch of others, but they weren't commissioned by Shakespeare himself. They weren't done while he was alive, and he didn't exactly.
The problem with that is like back then people knew the power of books and power of writing and anything, basically photos. That's why rich assholes, nobles, right, used to constantly do their portraits because they know that will live on. So the person they asked, like, is this Shakespeare, could have just lied, knowing like I could just like, I don't know, draw a photo of my cousin that will just live on or something. I don't know.
We stopped to pose for them. But these are the ones we most recognize him by. This includes Chandos, which is probably the most recognizable. So this could be him, or this could be some completely other dude, or it could be an idealized version. Now, we also don't know exactly when he was born, or when he died, or how he died. His birthday is celebrated on the 23rd of April, but there's no record of that. And then he died on the 23rd of April as well. So he died on his birthday? Odd coincidence. But we know that he did marry a lady named Anne Hathaway. Yes, same as Catwoman, but this one was the original. We also don't even really know how to spell his name. There are tons of different signatures by him, but they're practically all spelt differently. And let's not even get started on the conspiracies of whether all spelled
William Shakespeare, Willie's sake. Just Willie's sake, the first one, the hip one basically.
differently. And let's not even get started on the conspiracies of whether or not he really wrote his plays. The son of two illiterate parents from a lower-class neighborhood suddenly becoming the world's greatest playwright? Bit suspicious. Also, whether he...
I mean, what a bullshit, right? Like, how would somebody like that... Oh, there you go. Yeah. How somebody that's basically like that would be this? Like, it must be some nobleman doing that, right? Like, how somebody just living some kind of a poor, whatever conditions going to be something like that? It's not that, worse condition and tragedy forces somebody to be more creative. It's not like Faraday exists and how important Faraday was and how his living life was, right? I mean, definitely that's not the thing.
He was gay, or worse, whether he was foreign, or what the hell is going on with his grave. So if you go to the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford, there is his grave. There he lays, but there is an engraving above him. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he who moves my bones. Cursed, you see. You're not allowed to dig him up. So everyone is super spooked out by the curse,
Smart
and they
man.
refuse to dig him up.
Smart man. He knew that people are going to basically, take his bones and put it in a museum, this and that, how people do it with Egyptian mummies. He knew that he was important man, so smart. He just wrote that down knowing that people are not going to screw around with his fucking grave and shit. That's a smart man right there.
So archaeologists instead have done radar scans. Turns out his head is missing. He was grave robbed in 1794. So we can't even reconstruct him that way. And they won't open it up for DNA tests. So it's likely that we will never know the truth.
Are you telling me somebody has his head? Some rich idiot bought something from black market something and just has some kind of those movies, Hollywood movies type of shit. Some weird ass museum in his basement that he created. Some rich guy and that's like put it in some kind of a pedestal. The skull of Shakespeare. Is that what you're telling me?
Truth. The government is hiding something. The point is, Shakespeare stole the theatre at one point. Okay, quick Shakespeare moment. In 1599, Shakespeare was working as a playwright with his acting troupe called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. Now, they were leasing out a theatre in Shoreditch called the Theatre. Creative name. Anyway, they had a disagreement with the landlord, Giles Allen. Giles revoked their lease. Shakespeare and the Chamberlain's Men were not very happy about that, but they had no option but to walk away. But a few days later, in the dead of night, they came back. Now the group met up just outside the theatre, and they had bribed the watchman to look the other way. Then, with daggers and tools in hand, they broke into the theatre. Now they weren't there to kill Giles, and they weren't there to steal stuff from the theatre. No. They were there to rob the theatre. They tore down the entire building, piece by piece, and they started carting it away to a warehouse. From there, they ferried it across the Thames and over to Southwark. With the materials that they stole, they constructed the Globe Theatre. And there it stood for the next...
Okay, how do you basically deconstruct a theater and transport somewhere else without police, cops, or anybody interfering? How loose the law was back then? That's the question. Pretty loose, I'm guessing, if they can just do this shit. And it kind of makes sense. Like I said that in the previous video, like how theater, especially back then, was a really big thing, right? You don't see that shit everywhere. It's just theater, right? All the contraption, all the things. It's a unique thing, right? It's like today's, I don't know, like big ass arenas with, imagine those kind of like big ass LED screens and all the things that takes to make that arena. How different would that be? This is equivalent to that. So all the things that might be in the theater is pretty important. So they probably just took that and made another theater somewhere else. Otherwise they couldn't have. They would cost a lot of money.
Next 14 years until it burnt down. Whoops.
Oh.
It was a performance of Henry VIII. And a prop cannon was involved. Don't worry about that. But then it was rebuilt. But then in 1642 it was shut down again. But in 1997, a recreation of the Globe Theatre was made once more. And in London you can visit it today. As long as you can avoid being stabbed.
Okay. Is the stabbing big issue there?
And now for the best section of all.
Come on, people, we're ready to shoot. Where's the pizza box with the hole in it?
Oh, never mind, that's my cue.
Oh, the pawn. What he's talking about?
I gotta go. Catch you soon. Don't forget NordVPN.
What he's talking about, but okay. Why was that like a Trojan horse there? Like, what is happening? Okay. Pizza box in the hole. I'm like, wait a minute, Trojan horse? What does pizza box? I'm like, oh, God, that's what, oh, come on. I don't know why it took a second for me to think that, but okay. Alright, well, that was even fancier paintings, which are incognito mode. This was good one. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like this was better than the main channel ones. I don't know, this should have been the main channel thing because it was more entertaining. I don't know. If the main channel ones are not entertaining compared to incognito mode, then I'm gonna assume that it's deliberate, like international fucking with us, I guess. Like I said, that's his humor, right? We're gonna assume something, it's just gonna fuck with us. That's the point. Right, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.